just, I was very lucky, you know, had a great family life. You know, child of the Troubles, obviously, so it was a pretty hard time to be growing up anywhere, but Northern Ireland was pretty tough. But, you know, my mum and dad brought us up really well, good family, good background, and I always had a pair of boots and a football. I had 3 sisters as well, so it was best to stay out of the house, like, you know, so I was always out practicing instead of being inside.
And at what stage, you got an offer, didn't you, when you were very young, from Rangers, astonishingly, didn't you? Or they wrote you and said they were interested in you?
Well, there was a scout who was at Motherwell, and he wanted to take me to Motherwell. And then he moved to Rangers, and Rangers took an interest in me.
Hilarious.
I know, you couldn't make it up. And they invited me to Glasgow and to look around the stadium and that, but at that time they couldn't sign me because they're a non-Catholic signing policy, and I don't think it would have gone down too well at home anyway. But it was just interesting the way things pan out. That I've still kept the letter. You know, and that was near enough 25 years ago.
Oh, no, I saw it in your book. And interestingly then, you went, tell me your trajectory, you went to Leicester City, didn't you?
I started at Manchester City.
Yeah.
And then I played for a team called Crewe Alexander after that.
Yeah. And
then my life changed. Then Martin O'Neill came and signed me for Leicester. And then from Leicester I went to Glasgow Celtic, and I've been there for the last 10, 11 years.
It was interesting because your dad is watching, as you said, tonight, and he was very important for you. After Man City signed you, there was a moment where they dropped you when you were very young, where you could have gone off the rails, but he kept you focused, didn't he, your dad?
He did. I mean, I got released by Man City, and at 19, that's your world finished. Yeah, you're away from home. I was on a YTS policy, and this was on £28.50 a week, and your whole life's turned upside down, and my dad just told me to stick at it. Then I had a really bad injury, you know, a horrendous injury. I was out for a year and a half with a back injury, and that's a lifetime of football. But for a young lad, being away from home, the only way was up, really, but it was a long, long way back, even just to play for Crewe Alexander at 3rd division level. But my dad just was a source of encouragement for me all the time, and he said, just stick at it, it'll come good for you, and lucky enough it did.
And obviously meeting Martin O'Neill and going to Celtic eventually with him, has that been the most important move for you in your career?
I think meeting Martin and going to play from Leicester was a turning point in my career. And then we got promoted to the Premiership. We had a great time at Leicester. And then he went to Celtic, and he called me into his office and said, do you want to come to Celtic with me? And I said, well, you don't really need to ask me that, really. And he took me up there. And with 3 or 4 great years under him, with a great team, we won league titles and went to the European final. It was just a great time to be a Celtic player and be around the club. And you know, he left, and I continued on under Gordon Strachan, and we had a lot of success under him as well. But for me, Martin was the biggest influence on my career.
And I mean, you're at the top of the game, you're the manager of Celtic, but everyone knows it's been relentlessly difficult at times for you. Is it true that you believe a lot of the intimidation started at that time from 2001, 2002, when you pulled out, say, of the Northern Irish football team because of the threats, that then it transferred across the water?
Well, I mean, I'd played 30-odd times for Northern Ireland with Leicester, and had no problems whatsoever. And then as soon as I signed for Celtic and I got picked again, then that's when the problems began for me. So it was to do with my connection with Celtic more than anything else.
But in 2002, because not everyone will be aware of this, it was a bomb threat. No, it was a death threat phoned into the BBC, wasn't it? From the LBF, I think, or UVF, one of them. Yeah,
well, no one's ever claimed it.
Yeah.
I mean, we were just sitting down to a pre-match meal, and
on the night of the game.
On the night of the game.
Was it Cyprus? No.
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
You know your stuff,
I know my
man,
soccer. I studied it last night.
And the manager at the time was Sammy McElroy, and he pulled me out of the room and said, look, we've got 2 policemen here, they want to have a word with you. And they said, look, there's been a phone call into the BBC in Belfast saying if you play it tonight that you're going to get hurt. So I said, well, how serious is it? And he says, well, we can't take a chance on that, you know. So I rang the head of security at Glasgow Celtic, who was an ex-CID at Strathclyde Police, and he said, look, just come home, you know, don't take any chances. And after that, I just felt, you know, it was going to be this scenario every time I went back to play, and I just felt it was best for everyone's interest to stop playing and just continue in my club career.
Before we talk about that in Celtic, is it true that on your home, near your home in Lurgan, they put up Neil Lennon R.I.P. and at one stage your dad saw an effigy of you being burned on a 12th bomb fire?
Yeah.
What was that like for your parents?
I don't think it was that bad a player, like, you know. Well, I mean, they're away from it, you know. I'm living in Glasgow and they're obviously back home, and it's probably more difficult for them to, you know, grasp, really. But we know the situation. We know there's a big sort of Catholic Protestant thing with the Celtic Rangers thing. But a lot of people just use that as a vehicle to hide behind to vent the sectarianism. It's difficult for my mum and dad, and last season was probably even more difficult, as it was for my own family, really. But, I'm hoping that's going to be a tipping point in Scottish football. And, the Scottish Government are bringing in new legislation to really clamp down on all this. And, hopefully we can start talking about the football again.
But yeah, because when you hear Alex Salmond, like the First Minister, talking about changing the laws in a sense because of what happened to you, but like you're in the middle of this storm, right? When you get kind of bullets in the post and letter bombs and attacked in the street and people get, arrested and prosecuted for that, how do you deal with that? Never mind what happened, which we'll talk about this year.
It's funny, you see yourself on the hour every hour on the news, and it gets to the point where you think, are they talking about you? Because at the end of the day, I'm a football man, I'm a football manager. I'm not a politician, I'm not a member of a religious sect or a cult or anything. I don't preach hatred to anybody, so sometimes it's hard to get your head around it, But I was well looked after by the security forces in Scotland and well kept up to date with everything. And the Celtic fans put a big protective arm around me, and really their support was fantastic, as was the support of the players. I'm going in every morning and seeing your players play and train, and I brought a lot of them to the club, and it would have been unfair of me to walk away on them because some of them have come from places like Honduras, Israel, Mexico, to play for me, basically, because I'm the one who brought them in. So I didn't want to leave them in the lurch that way, and I'm seeing this young team develop, and that's where I get my kicks from.
And when that guy came on the pitch earlier this year and lurched at you, was that a moment where you thought, shit, I can't take this anymore?
Well, that was the one that really got to me. That was the most annoying thing, because the one place you think that you can do your job is the technical area at a football game. And again, a huge embarrassment for the club Hearts. It was worldwide. I've just been in Australia, talking about footage of it in Australia, so it's reached all parts of the world. And again, it's it took away the emphasis on the team, because they played brilliantly that night, but everyone just wanted to talk about this fan getting on the pitch. And it was one of initial shock and then real anger, because look, you can say all the things you want about me, you can criticise me for this and say that about me and say that, but just let me do my work in my workplace, please. That's all I'm asking.
And obviously it is utterly sectarian. You believe that, don't you, in terms of what happens to you at Celtic? It's because you believe you're an Irish Catholic. Is there any part of Neil that brings any of it on yourself?
Well, you see, everyone, a lot of...
And I'm not saying I believe that.
I know, a lot of people, journalists would rate that. I just think that's an easy way of hiding behind it. And not coming out and really saying... When I played, it was because of my aggressive style of behaviour, even though, my disciplinary record was very, very good. So, why does Niall McGinn get it? Why did Paddy McCourt get bullets sent to them in the post? And not, say, Gary Hooper or people like that. Because we got the same background. So the hide behind this, he brings it all himself rubbish, because I don't really behave that differently to many other managers. It's just because I'm in a high-profile job, it gets highlighted a little bit more.
Lots of people ask me, lots of guys who know a lot about soccer said, ask him what Ali McCoy's whispered in his ear.
No, I'm not telling you.
You're not telling me. You said you're going to tell someday.
I'll tell someday.
Yeah. Do you ever think, though, I've had enough? Like, when that happened to you this year, was there a moment... Because I know in the past you've gone on the record talking about being depressed and having depression, not to do with this. Was there a moment where you thought, actually, I couldn't be bothered doing this anymore? This is just too dangerous. You've got your daughter, your son, and...
No, because, I mean, this is a lifetime ambition for me, even though I think it's probably come sooner than what I expected, to be honest with you. But, all my professional life, I've wanted to be successful. I've been lucky enough to play for Celtic, and this is the job, for me, in football, to be the Celtic manager. And, I don't want to give it up for non-footballing reasons, and I want to be in the job for a while. It's a huge challenge, there's so many areas where the club needs improving, and no more so than on the pitch, and that's a huge challenge for me, and it gets me up every morning and highly motivated.
Would you manage our team? The Irish team, if you were
well, I mean, you've got a manager in place.
Oh, I know, we've got Trapattoni, but should he ever move back to Italy, would you be interested in the job?
Well, international football is a wee bit different from club football. You don't have the day-to-day involvement, and I think it's for coaches who are far more experienced than myself and have a bit more patience, because you might not have a game for 2-3 month blocks, and that would drive me crazy, Miriam.
I mean, when you bring them here, you're Celtic first, right, in 2 weeks' time. What are your ambitions for the club, first of all? I mean, you have big ambitions, don't you, for Celtic?
Well, we do, yeah. I mean, it's a huge club, and under Martin and Gordon, we had great success in Europe, and you know, I'd like to bring those days back. It's going to take a bit of time, a bit of building, but the one thing you don't have in Glasgow is time. So I need to really win the championship this year. That's a priority. We came very close last year, and probably have one of yourselves to blame for not doing it. So they're a year wiser, the players, a year more experienced, so I'm hoping they'll go on better. And I'd like to take us into Europe and play at least there till December, because it's important for my development as a coach and for the players' development, and it'll be important for the supporters as well.
Do you still go back up north at all to where your parents are? Do you go back to the north?
Yeah, I do, whenever I can, really, but you know.
Do you think it's changed much, or?
I think it's great, yeah. I mean,
yeah. It has changed.
I did my coaching badges in Belfast, and I mean, it was a great city, and it was great to go out. And I was always a wee bit worried about going back after, you know, playing and with the stuff in Northern Ireland, and you know, I got treated really well and had a great time up there, and looks a great city now.
Do you still love the game as much as you loved it when you were a little boy? Because the thing, as you said, is you wrecked your back because you loved playing so much. I mean, you loved it.
It's difficult. You see it, you know, through your kids' eyes, you just love the game. Like, you know, there's just everything's good about the game, and you have your heroes and your superstars, and you just aspire to be those people. And the shoe's on the other foot now, and you know, you see kids coming up to you and looking at you the way I used to look at other people. It's a great feeling, and that feeling never leaves you. I love the game, and the reason we become managers is we all think we can make a difference, and that's what's in front of me. I want to make a difference.
And when the Dublin Super Cup happens in 2 weeks, it's nice because they can bring all the kids, can't they? It's like a family affair, and it's not too expensive, which is relevant these days in Ireland.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's tough times, you know, and listen, we have a huge fan base in Ireland, and we understand the sacrifices that the fans make. You know, they're up at 3 or 4 in the morning, they're travelling across, get the ferry, it's 2 hours to Glasgow, it's a whole day, and it costs money. So this is an opportunity for the team to come and on the home patch, as it were, and see the team in the flesh, and hopefully they'll get a kick out of watching them play at the Aviva.
Well, Neil, everyone I spoke to was delighted you were coming on, and wish you the very best. And you're very courageous. I think you're really courageous to keep doing what you're doing, and maybe one day you will come here. And thanks for being my guest today.
Thank you, Miriam. Thanks very much.
Thanks a million. You too. Stay there for a sec. Yeah, they showed the trophy actually when you were talking. I was just saying to Neil, we showed the trophy there, the lovely trophy, which is going to be the Dublin Super Cup trophy. Now time for